Choose the right market before buying an investment property. Step 4 of the 10 essential steps for real estate investors. Before you buy an investment property, you need to understand something very important. The market can make or break the deal. A property can look good on paper. The price may look attractive, the rent may look strong, the building may look solid. But if the market is weak, unstable, overpriced, declining, overtaxed, underinsured, unsafe, or lacking future demand, that investment can become a problem. Real estate investing is not only about buying the property, it is about buying the property in the right location, in the right market, with the right demand, at the right time, for the right strategy. That is why step 4 is, choose the right market. And when I say market, I do not only mean the city name, I mean the full picture. Jobs, population, rent demand, taxes, insurance, crime, schools, development, future growth. These factors matter because they influence rent, vacancy, appreciation, resale value, tenant quality, carrying costs, long-term demand, and overall risk. A beginner investor may ask, is this property cheap? A serious investor asks, is this property in a market that supports my investment strategy? That is the difference. Let's break it down. 1. Jobs drive demand. The first thing to look at is jobs. Jobs matter because people need income to pay rent, qualify for mortgages, support local businesses, and remain stable in a community. If a market has strong employment, growing industries, hospitals, universities, logistics centers, corporate offices, construction activity, government jobs, or expanding businesses that can support housing demand. Why? Because people move where opportunity exists. If people can find work, they can rent. If they can rent, investors have tenant demand. If incomes rise, rents may have room to grow. If the job market is weak, unstable, or dependent on one major employer, the market carries more risk. For example, if one town depends heavily on one factory, one company, or one industry, and that employer shuts down or leaves, the housing market can suffer, vacancy can rise, rents can weaken, home values can slow, tenants may leave for better opportunities. So when you analyze a market, ask, are jobs growing? Are employers moving in or leaving? Is the local economy diverse? Are there multiple industries supporting the area? Are wages strong enough to support the rents? Are people moving there because of opportunity? A strong job market does not guarantee a good investment, but it gives the market a stronger foundation. And in real estate, foundation matters. 2. Population trends matter. The second factor is population. You need to know whether people are moving into the market, leaving the market, or staying flat. Population growth can create demand for housing. More people usually means more need for rentals, more demand for homes, more business activity, and more pressure on available housing supply. But population decline can create the opposite problem. If people are leaving, you may face weaker rental demand, longer vacancies, lower appreciation, and more difficulty selling later. Now, population growth alone is not enough. You need to understand the quality of the growth. Are working families moving in? Are retirees moving in? Are young professionals moving in? Are students driving demand? Are short-term visitors driving demand? Are high-income buyers entering the market? Different population groups create different types of real estate demand. A market growing because of retirees may support condos, single-family homes, and lifestyle communities. A market growing because of universities may support student housing. A market growing because of corporate relocation may support rentals, townhomes, and higher-end housing. A market growing because of tourism may support short-term rentals, if local laws allow it. So do not only ask, is the population growing? Ask, who is moving there? Why are they moving there? And what type of housing do they need? That answer helps you choose the right property. Rent demand is critical. If you are buying a rental property, rent demand is one of the most important factors. You need to know if people actually want to rent in that area. A property is not a rental just because you want to rent it. It becomes a rental when the market supports it. You need to study rental demand carefully. Look at rent levels. Look at vacancy. Look at how quickly rental units lease. Look at the condition of competing rentals. Look at tenant profiles. Look at whether rents are rising, flat, or falling. Look at whether the rent you need is realistic for the area. This is where many beginner investors make mistakes. They buy a property assuming they can get a certain rent because they need that rent to make the deal work. That is backwards. The market does not care what rent you need. The market decides what rent is realistic. If similar units are renting for $2,000 and you need $2,700 to make the deal work, you may not have a real deal. You may have wishful thinking. A serious investor verifies rent before buying. Do not guess. Do not rely only on a listing description. Do not assume the seller's projected rent is accurate. Compare actual rentals, speak with local property managers, study current listings, study recently rented units if available, understand what tenants are willing to pay. Also, pay attention to the type of rental demand. Long-term rental demand is different from short-term rental demand. Student rental demand is different from family rental demand. Luxury rental demand is different from workforce rental demand. Room rental demand is different from full-unit rental demand. The rent strategy must match the market. If the market does not support your rent strategy, the deal can fall apart. 4. Taxes can change the entire deal. Property taxes matter a lot. Taxes can be the difference between a property that cash flows and a property that loses money. Many investors focus on the purchase price and mortgage payment, but they underestimate taxes. That is a mistake. Property taxes affect your monthly payment, your cash flow, your debt service coverage, your resale value, and your long-term carrying costs. In some markets, taxes are reasonable. In other markets, taxes can be extremely high. Some areas also reassess after purchase, which means the tax bill may increase after you buy. So you need to understand not only what the taxes are today, but what they may become after closing. Ask, what are the current property taxes? Could the property be reassessed after purchase? Are taxes rising in the area? Are there local school taxes, municipal taxes, or special assessments? How do taxes compare to nearby towns? If rents are not high enough to support the taxes, the deal may not work. This is especially important for investors in high-tax states and municipalities. A low purchase price does not automatically mean a good investment if taxes are eating the cash flow. Mira, do not fall in love with the price and ignore the tax bill. Taxes are part of the deal. 5. Insurance is now a major market factor. Insurance has become one of the most important factors in real estate investing. In some markets, insurance costs have increased significantly. In coastal areas, flood zones, storm-prone regions, wildfire areas, older building stock, or markets with higher claims risk, insurance can become expensive or difficult to obtain. That matters because insurance affects your monthly carrying cost. If insurance is higher than expected, your cash flow can disappear. If the property requires flood insurance, wind coverage, or special coverage, the cost can change the entire investment. If insurers are pulling back from a market, that creates additional risk. So before buying, ask, what type of insurance is required? Is the property in a flood zone? Is wind or hurricane coverage needed? Is the roof age a problem? Is the electrical, plumbing, or HVAC system a concern? Are insurance costs rising in this market? Can I get coverage at a reasonable price? Never wait until the last minute to check insurance. Insurance should be reviewed early, because if the property is difficult or expensive to insure, the deal may not be as attractive as it first appeared. A serious investor does not only ask, what is the mortgage payment? A serious investor asks, what is the full monthly carrying cost, including insurance? 6. Crime affects risk. Rent, tenants, and resale crime matters. This does not mean you automatically avoid every area with challenges, but you must understand the risk. Crime can affect tenant demand, property damage, vacancy, insurance costs, management difficulty, resale value, and long-term appreciation. A property may look cheap because the market is pricing in risk. That does not automatically mean it is a bad investment. Some investors do well in rougher markets because they understand the area, have strong management, know tenant screening, and price the risk correctly. But beginner investors need to be careful. A cheap property in a high-risk area can become expensive fast. You may deal with higher turnover, more repairs, harder tenant management, lower quality applicants, security concerns, longer vacancies, lower appreciation, more difficulty selling later. So study crime carefully. Look at violent crime, property crime, block-by-block differences, trends over time. Talk to local professionals. Drive the area during the day and at night if possible. Understand the street, not just the city, because real estate is local. Sometimes one block performs differently from the next block. The goal is not to judge a community. The goal is to understand risk, and as an investor, you must price risk correctly. Schools affect demand, even for investors. Schools matter, even if you are not buying for yourself. Why? Because schools influence family demand. Family demand influences rent stability. Rent stability influences vacancy, and school reputation can influence resale value. In many markets, buyers and renters will pay more to live in stronger school districts. That can support property values. It can support rent demand. It can make the property easier to sell later. Now, not every strategy depends heavily on schools. If you are buying student housing, vacation rentals, commercial property, or certain urban rentals, schools may not be the main factor. but for single-family rentals, small multifamily properties, and family-oriented neighborhoods, schools can matter a lot. So ask, how are the schools viewed locally? Are families moving into the area? Is the property near schools, parks, transit, shopping, and daily needs? Is the area attractive to long-term tenants? Good schools are not the only factor, but they can strengthen demand, and demand is what keeps the property occupied. Number 8. Development can create future value. Development is one of the clearest signs that a market may be changing. When you see new construction, infrastructure improvements, retail growth, transportation upgrades, new restaurants, new employers, new mixed-use projects, or redevelopment plans that can signal future growth. But development must be studied carefully. Not all development helps every investor. Some development increases property values, some creates more rental demand, some improves lifestyle, some brings jobs, some creates short-term construction disruption, some increases competition. For example, if many new luxury apartment buildings are being built, that may attract higher-income residents, but it may also create competition for smaller landlords. If a new train station, hospital, university expansion, or commercial district is coming, that may increase demand in surrounding areas. If a city is investing in roads, parks, waterfronts, downtown improvements, or public spaces, that may support long-term growth. So ask, what is being built? Who is building it? Is the development funded and approved? Is it planned, proposed, or already under construction? Will it increase demand? Will it improve the neighborhood? Will it create jobs? Will it raise rents? Will it create too much competition? Development can be powerful, but do not invest only on rumors. A proposed project is not the same as a completed project. Verify what is real. 9. Future growth is the bigger picture. Future growth is what ties everything together. You are not only buying what the market is today, you are buying what the market may become. But future growth should be based on evidence, not emotion. Look at jobs, population, infrastructure, business investment, housing supply, rent demand, income trends, transportation, public and private development, local government planning, quality of life, migration patterns. You want to understand whether the market is moving forward, staying flat, or declining. A market with future growth potential may create appreciation, rent growth, stronger tenant demand, and better resale value. But a market with weak growth may limit your upside. That does not mean every investment must be in a booming city. Some stable markets can be excellent for cash flow. Some slower markets can work if the numbers are strong. Some emerging markets can offer growth, but they come with risk. The key is alignment. Your market must match your strategy. If your strategy is cash flow, you need a market where rents support the purchase price and expenses. If your strategy is appreciation, you need a market with strong future demand. If your strategy is fix and flip, you need buyer demand and resale activity. If your strategy is buy and hold, you need stability. If your strategy is short-term rental, you need tourism demand and legal permission. If your strategy is luxury, you need affluent demand, lifestyle appeal, and limited supply. The market must support the plan. 10. Do not choose a market only because it is cheap. One of the biggest mistakes beginner investors make is choosing a market only because the properties are cheap. Cheap does not always mean good. Sometimes a property is cheap because demand is weak. Sometimes it is cheap because jobs are leaving. Sometimes it is cheap because taxes are high. Sometimes it is cheap because insurance is expensive. Sometimes it is cheap because the area has high crime. Sometimes it is cheap because tenants are difficult to manage. Sometimes it is cheap because resale demand is limited. A low purchase price can be attractive, but only if the market supports the investment. A $150,000 property that sits vacant, needs constant repairs, has weak tenant demand, and is difficult to sell may be more dangerous than a $400,000 property in a stronger market with better demand. Do not buy cheap, buy smart. Price is only one part of the decision. Market strength matters, demand matters, risk matters, long-term exit strategy matters. Study the exit strategy before you buy. Every market decision should include the exit strategy. Before you buy, ask, if I need to sell, who is the buyer? Will owner-occupants want this property? Will investors want it? Will the next buyer be able to finance it? Will the neighborhood support resale? Will the property type remain desirable? Will demand still exist in 5 or 10 years? An investor must think ahead. You may plan to hold forever, but life changes. Markets change. Interest rates change, personal finances change, so you need to know whether the market gives you options. A strong market gives you more exit options. A weak market can trap you. You do not want to own a property that only works if everything goes perfectly. You want a property in a market where demand gives you flexibility. The right market depends on the investor. There is no perfect market for everyone. The right market depends on your strategy, budget, risk tolerance, experience, financing, and long-term goals. A market that works for a cash flow investor may not work for a luxury investor. A market that works for a flipper may not work for a buy and hold investor. A market that works for short-term rentals may not work for long-term rentals. A market that works for appreciation may not produce strong monthly cash flow. That is why you must define your goal first. Then understand your financial position, then obtain financing pre-approval, then choose the right market. These steps connect. Your goal tells you what you are trying to achieve. Your financial position tells you what you can carry. Your pre-approval tells you what you can finance. And the market tells you where your strategy has the best chance of working. Closing message. So before you buy an investment property, choose the right market. Do not only look at price. Do not only look at rent, do not only look at pictures, study the market, study the jobs, study the population, study rent demand, study taxes, study insurance, study crime, study schools, study development, study future growth, because the market affects everything. It affects your tenant demand, it affects your rent, it affects your vacancy, it affects your cash flow, it affects your appreciation, it affects your resale value, it affects your risk, and it affects your ability to hold the property long term. Remember this, a good property in the wrong market can become a bad investment, but the right property in the right market with the right financing and the right strategy can become a powerful asset. I highly recommend you take a real estate licensing course in your state. I cannot emphasize this enough. It is to your advantage personally and professionally. Even if you never become a practicing real estate agent, the knowledge you gain can help you understand contracts, agency, disclosures, ethics, financing, property law, fair housing, negotiations, timelines, market analysis, and the overall transaction process. That knowledge can make you a more educated, more confident, and more prepared investor. This is step 4 of becoming a smarter real estate investor. Choose the right market before you buy. Because when you understand the market, you stop guessing. You start investing with discipline. And discipline is what separates a hopeful buyer from a serious investor.